Talk about the honor of being inducted.
Well, it's a big honor for me. Having been raised in California, I grew up with the Rose Bowl. I remember the first thing we always looked forward to was the Rose Bowl game and to see the competition then between the Big Ten and the West Coast team. So then have the opportunity to coach in it many years later. Now have the opportunity to go into the Hall of Fame with so many distinguished coaches and players. Some coaches I work with. Some coaches that are in here I work for. Some players I have coached are in it. Some players I coached against are in it. Some great coaches like the McKays and the Jim Owens and these people that are in it that I coached against. So John Ralston, who I coached for at Stanford, is in it. So it's really nice to once again be on a team that is loaded with talented coaches like Terry Donahue. He coached in this game 4 times. I coached in it once.
And give us a memory of one of your highlight moments of your career. Have your career coaching?
Well, whenever you take a team to the Rose Bowl and are fortunate enough to win it, it goes into a category of being a highlight. I can remember Woody Hayes walking across the field when the game was not over, and I'm thinking, what is he coming over here for? And there was a timeout on the field, and a minute or a few seconds left to go, and he walks across and gives me a hug and he says, "Nice job of coaching, young man. I will never forget that." So that has to go into a highlight category when Woody Hayes says that to you. I had great respect and admiration for him.
And what are your thoughts of the big bowl game coming up on New Year's Day?
Well, I love the bowl game, and I also like the idea now that they're moving into a playoff opportunity to really do a better job of distinguishing who is really the best team in the country. America's all about finding out who is the best, and it gives the Division I people now an opportunity to do that. So I'm all for it.
Do you think that?
Pardon?
How much would you like to coach in a college playoff?
Oh, I would love to coach the college playoffs. At the time, we were, I think, number 11 in the country when we came here and beat the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State. So we wouldn't have been able to compete against number 1. But that shows you why those playoff games are important. And I hope they expand it one more level to include 8 teams rather than just 4. Because by the end of a year, many teams are much better than they were, even though they were good. By the end of the year, they're better, and they can beat teams that they couldn't beat earlier. We were one of them. So I appreciate the opportunity they're giving college football teams to really compete for that national title today in the way they're doing it. Saying I grew up in the era of the development of the history of the Rose Bowl. I can remember Paul Gray Bryant saying he'd drive a bus himself to bring his Alabama team to play in the Rose Bowl. It has never lost that credibility in my mind. I'm in my late 70s, so so I evaluate the game for a long, long time, and I don't think there's anything they can do through the Rose Bowl to ever have it lose the credibility that it's gained over the years. I just don't think it can happen. My last game at UCLA, and I get a phone call a few days later, said, "Would you like to coach the Philadelphia Eagles?" Okay, and unlike today, they don't play it. I was making $30,000 a year coaching UCLA. Okay, at that time. You see what their new coaches are going to college today. Good for them.
How does it feel being an inductee?
It's truly an honor. I'm from Ohio. I was born and raised. So growing up, the Rose Bowl was everything. Go for a Big Ten team. And being from Columbus, you always see that on January 1. So the fact that I got the call and said that I got inducted in, it was definitely truly an honor. It was a great moment.
Talk about the highlights of your career.
Well, that last year in college, it was a special. It was a special season. We were the last undefeated team for Coach Paterno, for one. We came into the Big Ten 2 years later. 2 years before, and came around and changed and won the Big Ten. So that was a great feeling. And like I said, being from the Midwest, playing in the Rose Bowl was a big treat. So that was the cap of everything.
Talk about highlight play that you can remember or reflect upon and say that was me at my best.
Rose Bowl? Yeah. I guess the famous one is the first play of the game that we had. Actually, it's ironic, it's against Oregon that we played 20 years ago. But my 83-yard touchdown was a signature moment, I guess, in Penn State history and I guess in Rose Bowl history. So it's kind of flattering to see that all the time, because I'm not a person who absorbs the attention all the time, but it's still good to see. It makes me happy that people still recognize it.
my brother's sister. I'm extremely proud to be able to represent my grandfather. I think this is an unbelievable honor, and it's just really, really super. And I'm happy to be here.
Were you a football player as well?
I did. I played at Utah State University, but I didn't go to Notre Dame.
All right. How many years did you play, and what was your position?
I was a wide receiver, and I played from 1970 to 74 at Utah State.
And can you talk about some of the accomplishments of your grandfather?
Well, 105 wins, 13 losses, 5 ties, two national titles, and just kind of set the stage for football, in America, college football anyway, in the 1920s. He kind of took Notre Dame and made it a small school and turned it into a major powerhouse, and kind of put football on the map, for the college level in America.
What is this induction?
It's truly an honor, and I'm sorry that my grandfather's not here to accept it himself, because I know he'd be very, very proud. My grandmother always said that of all the games that he played, the 1925 Rose Bowl was by far his favorite. He loved being here, and the game and the competition was awesome. So I'm happy to be able to represent, him.
What's your favorite memory?
My grandfather, actually, I don't have one because he died before I was born. He died in 1931, and so I have more memories of my grandmother, and the stories that I know about my grandfather came more from my grandmother and other people who knew him, but I never got to meet my grandfather.
Well, Marcellus, we'll talk about what your thoughts are as far as the big game coming up on New Year's Day.
Yeah, it's the game. Exciting because of the matchups, obviously. 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. But there's no second place out here in terms of Oregon, Florida State. Very excited to see if Florida State can continue their dominance. But at the same time, can Oregon finally get over the hump? So you look at the matchups, I think it's going to go between the ears.
Is there any bowl game that has struck you, got your interest outside of the playoff championship, like there's the Holiday Bowl and all these bowls? Anything that showcase of talent?
I mean, I see the individuals. I'm always interested in the individuals. Like you said, the Holiday Bowl and watching USC go out there and play. You're always going to get caught up in individual, certain teams here and there that's rooting interest, but I take it back to the NFL experience where every year you want to win the Super Bowl, and if you didn't make it to the playoffs, you're sitting there and it's a huge disappointment. Well, these guys are gearing themselves up and getting ready for that reality, which is coming soon for some of them. And that's competition. There's been a parting of ways. When I grew up, if you got first, second, third place, you got a medal. If you got fourth place, you got a handshake. Now, if you get ninth place, they give you a certificate. All right, that's cool. Not for me. You want it all. What do they say, Talladega Nights? You either first place or last. It certainly set itself up for that. But this is a tremendous game. I'm so excited to be here. Thank God I'm an LA native. Thank God I work at ESPN in LA. Thank God the Rose Bowl is here, because of the two matchups, this is the one to watch.
This is the one to watch.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right.